Today's video is sponsored by Dive Master Insurance, but more about them later. So it is a brand new year, a brand new decade, and January is the time for resolutions and of course bucket lists, but more importantly, booking your dive trip for the new year. Now, there were a few recommendations in the comments, such as Rainbow River in Florida, Columbia River, Washington State, and the underground missile silo, which has been on my personal bucket list for a little while now, basically exploring a submerged decommissioned Cold War nuclear missile silo. Yes, please. So the world is a pretty big place, and 70% of the world is covered in water, so there's actually more places to visit underwater than there is on the surface. But as with all things in life, there are some that are just a tad more amazing than others. I mean, sure, I can dive just down the road from my house, but there's not much there, and I certainly wouldn't dive there twice. These dive sites are worth investing in and taking your time so you get the most out of it. Many of them are very seasonal, so you get to see migrating species and basically don't visit during the monsoon season. So do your homework first and plan ahead. As a rather unfortunate rule of thumb, the more expensive the trip is, the kind of better it is in my experience. So let's take a closer look at bucket list dive sites for 2020. The Galapagos Islands are just another world when it comes to unique and rare animals. Sitting pretty much on the equator, out in the Pacific Ocean, south of Mexico and west of Ecuador, Galapagos at the right time of year can be packed with countless hammerheads just cruising past, giant whale sharks doing their thing, dolphins, sea snakes, turtles, iguanas, all sorts, and some species that are endemic to their waters, so you won't find them anywhere else. Not the easiest to get to and not for beginner divers, the Galapagos Islands will reward those who venture out to them. Just check out who you're actually diving with, because some dive centers actually have exclusive access to certain parts, and you need to check the best time of year, of course, to visit if you want to spot schools of migrating sharks and rays. Yucatan in Mexico sits level with many of the Caribbean islands and caters for a wide range of divers. If you search online for Yucatan diving, then you'll see beautiful shots of caves and cenote diving, but remember that Yucatan is just around the corner from the Caribbean, so there are beautiful ocean dives too. Catering for all sorts of divers, Yucatan is a beautiful place to visit, and you can very easily visit again and again and never do the same dive site twice. If you plan your trip for the right time of year, you can see whale sharks and all sorts of other marine life, but if you feel like you've already seen it all, then sign up for a cave or cavern course and explore one of the many cenotes and experience what very few divers have ever imagined. The further you take your training, the more cenotes open up to you, and you find new and exciting places that very few people have ever visited. Truk, or Truk Lagoon as it's more commonly known now, is the spot for you if you love shipwrecks. Truk Lagoon is one of the most wreck-rich areas on the planet, with many of the shipwrecks at recreational depths. If you want to fully explore all of the shipwrecks, then you'll definitely need your deep dive training and wreck training as well to see them all safely, but you can get your wreck fix at recreational depths and still have plenty to choose from. Some of these shipwrecks are pretty deep and require decompression dives, so you can slowly tick them off your list gradually as your training allows you. But there are plenty, some 30-odd shipwrecks to explore, so either a whole month's worth diving a single wreck each day, or maybe split it up into multiple trips. Remember, it is hard to explore all of a single shipwreck on one dive, so to save you from zipping through it, take your time, choose your favorites, and explore them properly. Before I continue with this list, here is a word from today's sponsor. Dive Master Insurance is your one-stop shop when it comes to scuba diving insurance. They provide a fast and easy way to book your travel insurance requirements online, no matter whether you're going on a single trip, extended stay, or are planning a multiple trip during a single year. Dive Master Insurance has got you covered. You can even insure your dive equipment through them as well. So, to read more T's and C's, to find your best policy for your diving trip, and to get your simple no obligation quote, just click on the link pinned in the comments. Dive Master Insurance, the diving insurance specialists. The Philippines consists of hundreds of islands in the tropics that create unique sheltered reefs and create opportunities for marine life encounters. So far, my favourite is Malapascua, a smallish island that sits just off Cebu. Malapascua has dive sites all around it, from flat reefs and underwater cave systems to cleaning sites for thresher sharks. Just getting to Malapascua can feel like an adventure because there are no direct flights, and the best way to get there involves a drive along like half the length of Cebu and a boat hop to the island. Once you get to the island paradise that is Malapascua, you cruise to dive sites on a unique outrigger boat that is built purely for diving. The dive sites are packed with small crevices and swim-throughs and unders, so you can explore to your heart's content. Something out of the ordinary for our last pick, and unless you want to do some truly deep diving, then this is the only place on Earth that you can scuba dive between two tectonic plates that are actually moving. Granted, they're only moving by a millimetre or so a year, but they're still moving. So this inland lake boasts crystal clear waters because all of the sediment just sinks down to the bottom, and the glacial water has been filtered through the volcanic rock for centuries for pristine water. The cold environment means that algae just doesn't bloom, but it does mean that you do need to dive in a dry suit. Iceland itself is a unique place to visit. If you want to get your winter wonderland fix, then this is definitely going to tick that box in this winter, or in the winter time, sorry. And so far, this has been the only place I've ever visited where they put licorice on the butter at the dining table. So there were a few bucket list dives, but if you leave it long enough, the list is just going to get longer and longer. So how many of these have you ever done, and where else is on your bucket list to go scuba diving? Let us know in the comments below to help others build their own bucket lists. Thank you for watching, and of course, safe diving. Have the right exposure protection, then you'll be fine. You do need to keep your dives a little shorter, but if you're just writing off an entire area and time of year by not diving, then what's the point? But ice diving is very different from other types of diving. So let's take a look at why you should ice dive.